Normally, when I analyze online hands on this channel, it's usually hands of my students or other players that send me hands. But today I'm doing something different. I'm going to show you how I analyze my own hands that I played in the month of February on 25 NL Zoom on PokerStars, and I just want to see what I could have done better. So let's dive right into it.
So in this first hand, we open pocket jacks, we get 3-bet pretty big to 9 big blinds in the cutoff, and we have a cold caller in the big blind, so at this point GTO goes out of the window. I just looked at the stats here, and this villain had 3-bet 5 out of 19, so he seemed to be quite loose and quite aggressive, and with the extra money in here, I thought I can just jam for value. I get called by the first villain, and I get called by the second villain. And when I see this run out, it doesn't look great, but then, hey, we managed to split against the first villain who also has pocket jacks, and I don't have to tell you how atrocious this play was to cold call the 3-bet with ace-8 offsuit and then call the shove as well. Next one, we have ace-king. Here is a raise. We 3-bet. We get 4-bet, and I looked it up in Solver, and I was supposed to actually almost pure jam this one. Instead, I called. We flop top pair, top kicker. He now goes for a quarter pot bet, which is fine. We call. He now jams. Nothing else to do for us than to call. And we win against ace-5, and I'm not sure he played this one very well, but we then again skipped the jam pre-flop, but post-flop everything was fine. Here we have pocket kings, there is a raise, there is a 3-bet, and at this point we have to 4-bet. I wanted to jam here because I think we can get called by queens and jacks and ace-king, so I will jam, and what happens is we get snapped off by the original raiser, and we run it twice, and we lose it twice against aces. Not much we can do. Kings against aces, always very unfortunate. Here we open pocket eights, we have a call on the button, and now look at this, we get min clicked by the big blind. I don't really know what to expect here, but I think I just want to call rather than open it up again. But now look at this, what's button doing? He's now min clicking it as well after he only called previously. So now this villain calls, and at this point I'm just calling, being really confused and hoping to set mine, and boom, top set on this flop. We check to what was the last aggressor, and he predictably goes for the c-bet. Big blind calls, and at this point I'm thinking one of them is likely to have an overpair, so I want to put some more money here. I want to just stack them at this point here on this board, and indeed the button obliges and jams. The big blind gets out of the way. We call, and we lose 2 pocket queens. He got so lucky there. We basically had him, but he hit his 2-outer. Okay, off to the next one. We have ace-jack here in the big blind. We just call the small blind raise. We could raise here ourselves, but it's fine. And we flop the world. Villain checks, and at this point I could stab, but I'm thinking if I had any other hand I might not stab here because this board is actually better for the pre-flop aggressor, so he might be checking. So this was, yeah, maybe exploitatively I should just have bet here. But I check. Now on this king turn, he now bets out, and at this point I want to put more money into the pot because I'm thinking maybe he's even slow playing something like ace-king, or he has some other ace that he would call with now, and he now re-raises me. So I'm losing to aces and kings here, but that's about it. So obviously blind versus blind, I'm not going anywhere. I call. He now jams the river. Easy call here, nothing else to do, and he's got pocket fours. Very creative bluff, and we win a huge pot. Thank you. Now we have pocket kings. We 3-bet an early position raise, get called, 9-9-7. Here I play either big bet or check. I go for the big bet. I get called. Here I can big bet again, almost half pot. I want to get it in as long as there is no ace or maybe another scare card like a queen or a jack, although even then I would consider it. And on this run out I will just jam. I get called by pocket eights and we double up again. Ace 10 this time, kind of a close one to 3-bet in the small blind against button, but I went for it this time and I get 4-bet, and I don't know. Oh yeah, I think I do remember why I jammed now here. This was a player, if I looked at his stats, he has about a 20% 4-bet here, and I think I also saw here that he does 4-bet light sometimes, and especially in this configuration I just thought that this would be a profitable one to go for the jam, but unfortunately I got called by pocket jacks and I lost this one. Ace king this time, we open it up, we get 3-bet by the small blind, we jam. GTO does jam here, but I think I've changed it exploitatively. This is more like a 4-bet fold for me now in these spots, but this was at the beginning of the month where I still tried to be closer to GTO in these spots, and so yeah, that wasn't great, but here it actually looks fine. First board, second board, and we did get paid off by ace queen, so actually I can't complain, and we even won both of these. But I still think actually against this sort of pool, a 4-bet fold with ace king might be slightly better. Now we have ace queen suited, we 3-bet on early position raise, we get 4-bet, and I'm not loving it, but at this point I don't want to fold, even though the 3-bet is actually, the 4-bet sorry, is actually quite big. So we call, we flop, flush draw here, and he makes it tiny. And at this point I have two options. Obviously I'm never folding. I can either call or raise here, but I went for the call, and we now turn our flush. He bets fairly small, we call again, and now this is a little bit annoying that the board pairs and he jams, and it's very tricky at this point because the way he has played it, it almost cries that it is pocket kings, but at this point with a small SPR, and I have to be good 32% of the time, I just can't fold, so I call and we win against ace king. And that was actually very poorly played of him, like making it so small on the flop I don't think is correct. Then okay, making it small on the turn is fine once the flush hits, but then jamming when the second jack hits and there is the flush on board, I don't know what he expected to be called by that's worse. And also I don't think that I would fold anything that beats him, so he played it poorly. We are happy. Pocket aces, we raise it, we get 3-bet here by the big blind, easy 4-bet, he shoves and we obviously call and we win against pocket queens, easy one. Here we call queen jack, and this is, I remember when I played it, this is not really great in GTO terms, but I just must assume that some of these players are pretty weak now. Button call and then the small blind call, so I need to win this 14% of the time, and I just thought I got the odds here. We flop pretty well, it almost checks through, but then the button bets, and now look at this, small blind raises. This is such a tough spot now when you have queen there, so I had to call here, and the button calls as well, and now at this point we feel pretty good. Small blind bets, we call, but now button unfortunately folds and small blind just jams, and we have the nuts here, we call, and it's very unlucky for the small blind. We actually got really lucky here to hit this turn, and I think I might have folded at some point here if the jack hadn't come, because it was 4 ways, but we got very lucky in the end here against another full house. Pocket tens, we raise them, just a call. On this board I don't know why I actually went for the c-bet. I should have just checked here with having second pair or the pair just under the top card. We get called. Now we can't complain. We hit a set, and I don't know why villain now donks, and it donks pretty big, but at this point I don't care about GTO because he doesn't care about GTO either. So we just raise this one. He raises again, so at this point I'm thinking he must have something strong, and unless he has pocket jacks or 9-8, which obviously is possible, but even then we have a redraw. Other than that, we're really good. And what does he have? 9-8. Of course, he does have the 9-8. Did I overplay my hand? Well, I think maybe, but with the clubs there, I was thinking maybe he could have Jack-10, he could have Ace-Jack, he could have pocket 7s, pocket 4s, and some sort of a club draw, so I think there's nothing else that I could have done. I could have played it more passively, but I thought this was just such a bad player that we could get some value against him, but unfortunately he had the nuts. Now we have ace-king, we open, we get 3-bet, we 4-bet, he jams, and at this point, yeah, tough, but I mean, we have to call because it's small blind versus big blind and nothing else to do. We lose against pocket jacks here, it's a flip. What can you do? Ace-king again, we 3-bet, get called here. Either big bet or check, both is fine. I big bet, get called. Now on this turn we could check, we could continue betting with top pair, top kicker, which is what I did here, and he now jams, which is very, very unfortunate, and I called here, and I don't know why I called here. Now thinking back now, and I don't remember this hand now, so I don't know what villain had here, so I don't know if I won or lost. We'll see in a few seconds, but just my thought is now at this point, once I bet and I get check jammed here on this turn, I just don't think I'm ever good actually. I think this sounds like an 8 or a flush, but I don't think it's something like ace-queen or ace-jack or pocket 9s with a heart or something like that. So I think that was a very bad call, and indeed he had the 8. So I don't know if this was a misclick. I totally don't remember the hand, but I know that I just shouldn't have called here. I don't know why I did. Here we open a6 suited. We flop top pair, but this is a hand that I'm happy to check. Now he overbets this one, which is like really surprising to see, especially because he makes it 3x, but at this point I have top pair and I have the flush draw, so I just call, and now we have the flush, but he jams. The problem is he could still just overvalue a weaker flush here, but will he really? I mean, he is a bit of a tighter player here, over 200 hands. But now we've made our flush, but he kind of like 2.5x's it. So I think this is a very tight one. Do we have more than a bluff catcher? I think yes, and that is the reason why I called, because he could have done this with like king jack or king queen or something like that of hearts, but I expect not to be good very often. I have to be good 41% of the time though. Am I ever that good? I don't know, but let's see what I did. I called and I expect to lose now, and he has pocket 4s. Yeah, this was very unfortunate, but yeah, can I get away from it against 2 overbets here? I got really unlucky that I hit my flush on the river, otherwise I would obviously have been out, but I still think possibly I can get away from this one against humans. Here we now have aces, there's a raise, a call, we squeeze, we get called, and there's a fold, we flop top set, I go with my standard small continuation bet here on this board, and I get raised, which is very interesting. At this point, I don't want to re-raise, because if he has any bluffs, I want to keep them in. So I call, and here he now jams. Obviously, easy call with the nuts. And what did he have? Ace king. He was unlucky there, although I'm not sure he should really raise my flop bet there. But then again, yeah, if I have ace queen or ace 10, but these are pretty much the only hands that he can get value from. So I think he kind of overplayed his ace king a little bit here, but I have done that before. Now we have pocket kings, we raise, we get 3-bet, we 4-bet, we get jammed on, have to call, and we win against ace king. Pocket jacks, we raise, we get 3-bet, we 4-bet, he calls, we check, he bets pretty big here, half pot, easy jam for us, we get called. And he had king jack. Unfortunately, we lose one of them, but it was a good jam. We got it in good. Here we 3-bet ace queen. We get 4-bet. Again, a spot I'm not loving, but I went for the jam here because this player seems to be quite loose with his 4-bets, but we get called by pocket kings. I still think it wasn't the bad one. This was obviously a bluff 5-bet, and I don't do that often, but cutoff versus button and someone who is happy to 4-bet bluff quite a bit, I think it's okay to 5-bet jam ace queen. Here, this was a very loose one, loose call here, 4-3 suited. We have the 3, he c-bets, we check raise with bottom pair, he calls, now we have 2 pair, we overbet this one, he calls, and now this river, and I jammed, he calls, and he has ace king, so this worked out very well for us here. Pocket kings, we 3-bet, get called, top set, we could check, we can go small, I go small, he calls. Here now we can go a little bit bigger, I want to get it in on the river obviously, which I do, and I get called by a king, not much to say here. 8 with 3-bet against an early position raise. This is a close one, but I think it's fine. On this board, I either c-bet big or check, but I need to check a big part of my range. However, there is merit in betting, because if he has a hand like ace queen or something like that, I definitely want to get that fold equity, but I check here. Now we turn the set. He bets fairly big. Now, how many 6s does he have in his range from early position calling there? It's basically exclusively pocket 6s, and even that is not super likely. I mean, given his entire range here, so I decided to raise. And once he jams, this is a very, very tricky spot. So could he be doing this with worse? And I think yes, pocket 7s and maybe pocket 5s, although he doesn't have a lot of pocket 5s. But let's give him 1 combo of pocket 5s, 3 combos of pocket 7s, that's 4 combos, and then obviously the 6 combos of pocket 6s. Now, he could also have jack 10, but there are 2 flush draws out there, and he might be overplaying an overpair. And even if he has any of the hands that I mentioned, unless he has pocket 9s, which I forgot to mention that we lose against that as well, but that's the only hand where we are drawing very thin against everything else. We still have 20% equity. We have to be good 34% of the time, so I think it is a call, but it's not a fist pump call. But I have to call, and he has pocket 7s. Now pocket kings, we 3-bet and get called here, big bet or check. I go for the big bet, get called. Easy life after this. We continue betting, we get called, and now we lose to ace 10 here, but still no way, I'm not gonna jam this one. I get called by queen 9, and now look at this, like calling queen 9 suited out of position here pre-flop is already a bit of a blunder. Then on this turn, flop, sorry, yes, I made it. No, actually, I did make it big, and all he had was backdoors and 1 over. He was basically drawing pretty much dead. Then, yes, on the turn, he picks up quite a bit of equity with the gut shot straight draw, and the flush draw, but still, I made it big, but I guess at this point he has to call. Yeah, no, turn call is fine. And then the river, once he bricks his draws but gets the queen, which is not top pair now, and I triple barreled in him, and I also overbet this river, and he still called. I am amazed, but fair enough. Now we 3-bet pocket queens, and sorry, this is going too fast. We have a cold caller in the big blind, and now cutoff jams, and I think at this point the jam could be for value, but it could also be something like ace queen, ace jack, or maybe ace king, which would be fine. And so I think I have to call here. I can't fold because it could just be a light one because of the cold caller here. So I call, and what does he have? He has pocket kings. So that was unfortunate. However, I still think it's okay. Again, it's not a fist pump call. Against an earlier position, I might have folded, but because it was the cutoff, because we had this cold caller in between, I think it was just about okay to call there, but I could be convinced otherwise. Pocket queens again. We get 3-bet, we call, we flop a set, and we just call. Here we have position after all. He now bets pretty big. I call again, and on this river, hoping that he doesn't have pocket kings, he jams, we call, and he has aces. So this was a cooler, not much to say about it. Ace queen, we 3-bet, we get another cold caller in the big blind. And now we have top pair, he checks, we go for big bet, which I would do on this board, big bet or check. He calls here, I am happy to go for value again. I can still be called by pocket jacks, pocket tens, maybe pocket eights, sevens, and so on. He calls, and now on this river it's getting a bit thinner now. However, I still don't really see much that I lose against. Yes, low played 9x, which you shouldn't have a lot of. Yes, low played aces or kings, which you shouldn't have a lot of. So I think we can just go for glory here. We get called by, oops, quad nines. I still think this one was fine. He slow played them very, very well here, and we fell for it. We open jack 10 off, get called by the small blind, 8, 9, 10 jack. This is an open ender. We can check or we can bet big. I bet big, get called. We turn our straight. Now we go about 2/3 and we get raised. And at this point, we have the nuts and we can just get it in here against whatever he has. He calls, and he had the flush draw, and we hold up. Pocket kings again. We 3-bet, get called, 8, 9 jack, not a great board. This I would play a lot of check here, so I play check. This we do like, but on the other hand, he was still quite dangerous. He checks, but now that he's checked twice, I'm happy to bet. Fortunately, we get check raised. Thinking of jamming here, We could, of course, get called by a worse set. We only lose against Queen 10 or very unlikely 10-7. So I just jam here, thinking that it's with two flush draws out there and him possibly having 8s, 9s, jacks, jack 9, king jack, maybe even something like king queen of clubs or whatever. I'm happy to jam, and we get called, and he indeed had ace, queen of clubs, so a nice one here.
Let me know if you like this new format, and I'm gonna do this every month, at least that's the plan for now. So let me know in the comments below if you actually enjoy this sort of content.